Yeah.
Okay, good evening, our fans from around the world. It's Formula One Technical, and today we're going to be previewing the next Grand Prix, which is the Pirelli Gran Premio d'Italia, that normally holds at the Autodrome Nazionale Monza. And with me to look into that is Lerato Kuzwayo, all the way from South Africa. Lerato, you're very welcome to the show.
Yo, yeah, man. Great to be here.
Yeah, so a very historic track, the Monza. It's produced a lot of historic races over the years. You know, Schumacher and Hamilton have done quite well on this particular track. I think they have
Yeah,
five
sure.
five wins afresh, apiece. I beg your pardon. And just last year, Max won, and I think in 2022, Max won as well. In 2021, it was Daniel Ricciardo of McLaren, and then 2020 was Pierre Gasly of AlphaTauri. But this time around, we don't know how it will pan out, but it's looking very, very strong for McLaren following the victory of Lando Norris in just concluded Dutch Grand Prix. So, what are your
Sure.
general assessments of the Dutch Grand Prix? Let's just do a quick post view of the Dutch Grand Prix. What was it? Did it meet your expectations? Were there any surprises for you? I know we've spoken about a lot of things about that particular Grand Prix, but did it really meet your expectation? Were there any surprises for you? What are your general assessments of the Dutch just concluded Dutch Grand Prix?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the surprising things. Well, I don't know if it's surprising now anymore to see Mercedes sort of fumble about
Kumbula, yeah,
uh,
was a big
the,
surprise.
the like the car setup and things like that. But you expected them to be on the podium after having won three of the last four races. So I think that was the biggest one.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think everything else sort of happened, and especially
yeah,
after they had practice sessions and yeah, yeah, they sort of like when it got to qualifying, it just sort of dropped off a little bit. And
yes.
actually
I
during the
predicted at
race,
least one of the Mercedes-Benz drivers would be in the top five, but like you rightly mentioned, it's a little bit of a surprise for me
yeah,
too. Please continue.
yeah. So I think that was the one surprising thing. Though, like I said, it hasn't been a lot of a surprise now these days for Mercedes to sort of drop the bar a little bit. Um, but I mean, overall, a masterclass from Lando Norris. He drove masterfully, um, and it was really great to see. Was one of the other wonderful things that I enjoyed seeing was the gimbal cam on the top of the McLaren as he was
Oh
flying
yeah.
through those banking corners and everything. It really looked like he was having a good time in that car.
Like an airplane. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there
No,
was
no, no.
so
It
much
looks like
aerodynamic feel to it. I agree with you. McLaren was really,
yeah,
really dominant. It was a dominant performance by Lando Norris. And
sure.
if you look at the season now, McLaren's dominant performance at the Dutch Grand Prix signifies a major shift in the 2024 Formula One season dynamics because it's been Red Bull dominating all along. But the ability to outpace Red Bull by a significant margin, both in qualifying and race condition, demonstrates not just incremental improvement, but a fundamental leap in their car performance. And everybody seems to be talking about their setup for this particular race. But I think credit should be given to the driver as well. I think he's a good car setup and a brilliant driver. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no. I think it's always a combination of efforts, and I think like I said in our post race show that McLaren seemed to be on top of everything. They made all the right calls in terms of strategy, when to bring him in order to cover any kind of undercuts
Yeah,
that the other teams tried and things like that, you know. So they were really on top of it, and I know like there is also that narrative that now that Red Bull has dropped off, it's given McLaren the space, but I think McLaren has really outdeveloped. I mean, winning the race by about 22 to 23 seconds. Um,
absolutely.
it's something massive. It's something noteworthy.
It is.
So yeah,
It's absolutely.
it was a really good race to see. Yeah, it was also good, bad, a little bit to see what Aston Martin was capable of. Although they didn't carry it all the way to the end with Lance Stroll ending up outside of the points, in spite of the fact that they showed that they also had a pretty good package in qualifying. Um, so yeah, it's kind of tough to see where they're having a difficult time with their development, but it's yeah, it'll be good to see how much more they develop
They develop.
in
Yeah,
terms of that. Um, so yeah, but yeah, no man. Otherwise, we just like looking forward to Monza and seeing what the guys can
they're
do
gonna do. Yeah, absolutely.
in
And
Italy.
while Max Verstappen maintains a significant lead in the Drivers' Championship, the Constructors' Championship is becoming increasingly competitive. You know, McLaren's surge in performance combined with Red Bull's struggle has made everything become like very dramatic, narrowed the gap in team points. And McLaren
Yeah,
has always been heavy on team effort, much as against
yeah,
performance of the points of a particular driver. So this shift not only affects the current season
sure, sure.
standings, but it also influence the strategies of the teams going into Monza. Basically, I just wanted to update our, our fans some latest updates that I, sort of researched on the internet today. They said Williams was replacing Logan Sargent. I'm sure you heard about the incident that led to the crash, and
Yeah, sure, sure.
so many other crashes that had been occurring with this same driver. So Williams has replaced Logan Sargent with Franco Colapinto for the rest of the 2024 season. I think the guy is from F2, is a little unknown in F1, but he's been replaced. Team principal James Val cited Sargent's inconsistent performance and costly crashes as a reason for the change because these crashes actually cost the team millions of dollars. You know, it cost them
Lots
millions
of
of dollars. Go ahead, please.
and he's always having like these dismal crashes,
Yeah,
Sergeant.
yeah.
It's never just like hitting like grazing the wall a little bit,
It's
losing
always
a little bit of
significant.
front
It's always a
wing.
significant impact.
It's
Yeah,
always, I mean, the last time the car caught fire and everything.
yeah,
Um, but in as much as he had also tried to be some kind of a team player, you know.
yeah,
I think there was the one time when Albon crashed and he gave Albon his car and all those things. But I think yeah, no man. He just has not been delivering.
No, he's not been
Uh,
delivering.
in
He's not been delivering at all.
yeah, in the same way.
Yeah,
Actually, I saw a mock video
of
earlier
the
on
crash.
that was really funny. Yeah, that that actually was speaking about how Lando was actually more in competition with Sergio Perez than with anyone else because he actually outperformed Sergio Perez a couple of times.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I mean
Yeah,
that's when he would have ended 12 and whatever. And I think in last year's season, he scored I think only 1 point the entire season, and he only scored that point because Hamilton and Leclerc were disqualified because of plank wear.
Sure, sure,
Otherwise, he had fallen out of points.
sure, sure.
So yeah, he had been underperforming for quite a while, and of
Yeah,
course, with all the costs that the team has had to sort of pick up
yeah,
with all his
yeah,
crashes,
sure,
they sort of had
absolutely.
to yeah consider someone who can handle the
Yeah,
the the F1 machinery. Yeah, I
better
think the weight of the car and controlling that car is not half as easy as everyone thinks it is.
things. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. So basically, the guys from F2, and they feel because he's fresh, he could bring some freshness into the driver's setup. Apparently, the new aero package that was badly damaged during the crash cost Williams a lot of money. So it was a no-brainer that following it was one crash too many. They had to take a business decision,
yeah,
really. So I think that's
sure.
why that happened. So I just wanted us to take a look at the uh, driver standings. It's beginning to narrow up, but is not as as slim as the constructors. I'll just bring it
As
up
the
very quickly.
constructors, yeah,
Yes, it's not as slim as the constructors, but is narrowing down too as well. So basically, the drivers, I think it's 295 Max Verstappen. I don't know if you can see the screen. I'm sharing the screen now.
yeah, sure, sure,
Okay, and Lando is 225, so just like 70 now between Lando and Max is getting really close. So, and
yeah,
I think the window for setups and upgrades for Red Bull is pretty much closed for the season. And it appears at this level the McLaren car seems to be superior. But this is a track, the Monza track. They call it the Temple of Speed. It has a lot of high speed straights and very, very
sure.
tricky corners. Yeah, if we look at the constructors is a little bit closer. Red Bull is on 434 while McLaren is on 404. It's about 30
Yeah,
points
it's just like
difference.
30 points
30 points, yeah. This
difference.
this this one is, I think this is achievable for McLaren, you know, much more than
Yeah,
the drivers. And then of course, let's quickly look
yeah,
at yeah, go ahead, please.
yeah. I think it was clear with the Hungary race that they were focusing more on the constructors
Yeah, sure.
than they were
Hungaroring.
on
Yeah,
on 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 the
sure.
drivers. Yeah,
Absolutely. And I think their team principal, Zach Brown, has mentioned it time and again that is more heavy on team performance rather than, having one super driver and then one substitute driver. Their team strategy seems to be built around, that team strategy,
yeah.
camaraderie,
Both
and all of
performing
that.
performing well.
Yeah. If you look at this track, it's a very funny track. It's like the foot from the ankle down.
Yeah,
If you can see, it has a lot of straights, two
no,
major
for sure.
DRS zones. So a lot of opportunity for overtaking will be available definitely for this particular race. What do you think? How do you think this track layout would affect the race?
Yeah, no, the Italians have something always to do with feet and shoes.
Yeah,
Even the country looks like a boot.
like a boot.
That's why
Yeah,
Italian
sure,
shoes are so popular.
sure,
Yeah, but I
absolutely.
think, man, I think this race is going to be interesting because it requires a lot more power, in terms of the power units.
Yeah, sure,
I think you spent about 80% of the race being at full throttle, just about, as opposed to other races. Uh, and outside of those chicanes that were added later on in the
yeah, sure,
race, there aren't a lot of tricky turns that are
sure,
challenging.
sure. A lot of tricky turns. Absolutely.
All those corners, maybe 1 or 2 to a few tenths of a second per lap, um, and most of the lap is spent on those straights.
Yeah,
So straight line speed is going to be a great determinant of the race. I know in terms of car setup, you sort of neglect downforce
absolutely.
for
Every
for
setup
greater.
must de-emphasize downforce. All
Yeah,
the
yeah,
setup
yeah,
must
yeah.
de-emphasize. Yeah,
For greater speed.
greater speed. Yes,
And we know that's somewhere where Red Bull actually might be strong and
sure,
might
sure,
maybe
absolutely.
try to put on a resurgence to fight for the two titles. Um,
Yeah.
but McLaren
And this is
is
a
still in
racetrack
there. I
that
haven't
favors, yeah, this is a racetrack that favors someone like Max Verstappen, his driving style, basically.
his driving style. Yeah, sure. Um, but in as much as it does that,
Yeah,
I feel like it's like an open book test for all the other drivers.
sure, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
with good car setups, it's anyone's race
Yeah,
between McLaren and Red Bull.
and Red Bull,
And
yes,
of
I agree with you.
course, Ferrari know the track. It's their home track,
Home track, yeah,
and they always want to put their best foot forward there.
sure,
Also,
sure.
so we'll be looking out for how they can make improvements.
Yeah, sure.
Seeing that they also made like last minute improvements in terms of the race on Sunday as compared to their qualifying and their practice sessions. So it should be interesting. Um, Another thing, I think Antonelli is Italian, so he'll be having an FP1 feel of the F1 car with
Absolutely,
Mercedes. So
absolutely.
that'll be great to also check out. Um, I suppose it'll be a good measure to see how well the car
Already,
does in his
already is, yeah, sure,
uh, yeah,
sure.
yeah, versus the seasoned drivers. Um, but yeah, and from what we heard from Zach Brown over the weekend is that McLaren is looking to bring more upgrades.
Yeah, sure,
Um,
sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. I think they still have more upgrades in the bag that
Sure.
they're thinking will make the car much better. And
Much
if
better.
um, their calculations and their how that translates into real world racing, then we're going to see a pretty strong McLaren. So
Absolutely.
I think yeah, I think McLaren's time in the sun is only just beginning.
Oh, sure,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. So
I also
yeah.
think,
Red Bull has actually seen that it has to fight to
yes,
win races.
yes,
From the last, I think 2 or 3 races that they won, they had to fight for them.
of course they have to
So they
fight.
have to fight for wins now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And even this Dutch Grand Prix, I mean, my pretty much everybody's prediction before the qualifying and the race was that this was Max's race to win, but it didn't turn out that way,
Mm.
and this will be an open race too, like you rightly mentioned. Because of the smooth track surface at the Monza, typically this results in very low tire wear. So the tire degradation
Yeah.
may not be as significant as other tracks. It allows teams to push harder for longer and often opt for fewer pit stops. Tire strategy can be significant anyway, just like in any other track. So basically, let's just look at who are your picks, predictions for qualifying for this race? I think Mercedes would actually perform better than what they did in the Dutch was a little bit Dutch Grand Prix was a little bit disappointing. But I think
Yeah,
Russell will give it a good go this time around. But what are your top five for qualifying for this particular Grand Prix?
yeah, yeah. I think Russell has sort of shown a clean streak of out qualifying Lewis. So I'll always sort of count him there in the top five. I think Piastri and Max have also been very consistent in the top five, and maybe give or take um, 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 a Ferrari, maybe Leclerc or Science um, if they
Yes,
if they do well in qualifying,
I'm actually even
they'll
I'm
be
leaning more to Leclerc than Sainz.
yeah, they'll be starting close to the front. And yeah, I think those would be the top five, unless Mercedes really comes back with a working package uh, to sort of knock some of those guys down, maybe to knock um, Ferrari out of the top five in qualifying. But um, yeah, it's always on and off with Mercedes, so you can't bet on them.
Yes, you can bet on
Um,
them. Absolutely. You never really know
yeah,
when they're
so,
going to
so
have a great race.
yeah,
They are very
so
inconsistent.
I'm I'm putting my money on McLaren doing well, on Max doing well. Russell coming in there with a shot, and maybe Charles Leclerc as part of the top five. Um, but yeah, but also I think the other thing that we saw at the Dutch Grand Prix in terms of qualifying was
Yeah.
that the first the top 10 in Q2 I think was split by about 5 tenths or
Yeah,
four
sure.
tenths of a second.
Sure.
Um, by 4 tenths of a second.
Sure.
I think maybe up to 12 it was like half a second. So I think it goes to show how close everyone is in terms of speed and on like that one lap qualifying lap. So it's gonna be close as
Yeah,
always.
absolutely.
Uh, yeah,
And I think,
especially
yeah, go
on
ahead.
on the Monza track. Yeah,
And I think once again, Lando's tire management would really come to the fore here. At the Dutch
sure.
Grand Prix, he was able to manage his tires well. His tire strategy was brilliant. After starting, I think he started on medium and then he switched to hard. He overtook Max Verstappen in the early race. He maintained a superior pace almost throughout, even setting the fastest lap of the race on heavily used set of hard.
On the last lap. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which was faster than times set by others on new soft tires. So I think
Sure.
tire strategy come into place. And conversely, Max tire management wasn't as good. Verstappen led the initial phase of the race, but struggled with the tire grip, particularly on the medium compound. So Red Bull would have to get their tire strategy very well this time around. And also, another thing that McLaren used to good effect was the drag reduction system. They used it effectively to overtake in at critical stages of the race, despite being in turbulent air. Behind Verstappen, Norris used this to good effect in overtaking Verstappen, and he quickly pulled away. So there's clearly a performance gap between the RB20 and the McLaren race car. So I think once again, tire management will be very, very, important for both teams in determining the outcome of the race. So basically, the race and um, this particular race, because of the fact that there's so many um, long straights and high speed straights, I really don't think uh, the qualifying will give us any indication of the outcome of the race. It's not so circuitous. There's still ample opportunity
Sure.
for overtaking during the race. It's not like one can heck of a race like Monaco where you're almost certain the way the qualifiers turn out is the way the race would turn out eventually. In a circuit like this, if you had a poor performance in qualifying, there's still ample opportunity. You're not on pole to still make a good race.
To make a good race, yeah.
Make a good race. So I think this
Um,
one is really very open. Yes, you wanted to say something. Go ahead, please.
yeah, no, no, no. I just think this is going to be like, as I said before, a showing of who has the best power unit, who can also manage that power better. Being that the car is at high power output at almost 80% of the race, how you manage
Yes.
your power units and how you manage your
Yeah,
battery uh,
exactly.
in order to pull off overtakes when you need to pull off overtakes
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
and things like those. That's what's going to win the race.
For sure.
And also then I suppose who manages their tires best, and who undercuts or overcuts the other person better than the other team. Um, I think they will be that coming into play. You know that those strategy plays will be
Sure.
things that the teams will be looking at.
Absolutely.
Um,
Undercutting and overcutting,
to
very, very important points because most of
sure,
the long straights are followed by heavy braking zones. So that is really very important. Well said. Please continue.
sure. Yeah, so I think that the race is going to be won in those two places, in terms of how you manage your energy and your power, and how you manage your tires, as you said. Yeah.
Okay, so well, in no particular order, I think it will be between Red Bull and McLaren. I think it will be Lando. I want Lando to win. I just want a little bit of more competitiveness and drama to set in. I want a kind of
Sure.
photo finish this season. So I want the pigeons to be thrown
Yeah.
among
No.
the
No. No.
cats, really. But just to make the thing interesting, I just want Lando to get another victory. I think Russell will make a good race of it, actually finish ahead of either Leclerc or Sainz. I know the Ferrari team, like you rightly mentioned, it's their home Grand Prix. They would want to, put in a performance, and I feel would actually put in a very good performance. So since it's this kind of race, I wouldn't want to stick out my neck for predictions for the final race, but I think for qualifying, I would say Lando will finish on pole, and then Max, and then Leclerc, and then maybe Russell, and then maybe either Piastri or any other person. That's just what I feel. So this, in a
Yeah.
nutshell,
Yeah.
is any last thoughts as we round up, Erato?
Yeah. I think McLaren has to sort of continue taking care of like driver nerves, um, because they made like very minuscule mistakes, but that could have cost them hugely. I think when you look at like the data of the start and the telemetry and all those things, um, they
Yeah, fine,
went
fine
too
margins,
hard.
very
Yeah,
fine margin.
yeah, too hard on the throttle too quickly, a second too quickly, or maybe half a second too quickly. I think they were good in terms of reaction times. They were all on par with like amongst all the drivers, Max, maybe like the top five drivers between Max, Lando, Piastri, and Russell. They all sort of reacted all in similar fashion. Sergio Perez as well. But where the difference was made was in how they approached the pressing of the throttle, which is what caused them to have a lot of wheel spin. The McLaren, they went too hard on the throttle
on the
too early.
throttle.
Yeah, when they should have eased into it a little bit more. And those 3 seconds cost them each a position in the race. Um, so I mean, it goes to show you how much they have to be precise in terms of getting their
Absolutely,
starts correct.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, but in terms of what they have as a car, I think they would be on top of it just as well. They're coming confident
Absolutely,
from a previous race win,
absolutely.
from all the other podiums that they've had. I think I I had mentioned also to Mustafa in a text earlier that actually there's the interesting stat of PSG being the only driver this year to finish every lap, um, which also explains to us why McLaren is where it's at,
Such a good car.
and
Yeah, sure.
yeah, he's
Absolutely.
always finished in the points. And actually, I've been doing comparisons with where they were last year at the beginning of the year, where they were showing dismal
Dismal
starts,
performances. Absolutely.
starting in 20th and 19th, and cars not working to where they are now. I think they
Made
really
significant
deserve.
improvements. They've made
Yeah, they've
significant
made
improvement.
major improvements,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, it would be good to see them bringing the title race as a whole to
Yeah,
Red
sure,
Bull, and them
sure,
being up front,
sure.
maybe battling the Ferraris for a 1-2,
I want to, yeah.
or at least both drivers ending up on the podium. That's what I would hope to see, to make the season a little bit more fiery. But I
Yes.
think I think any other winner other than Red Bull would make it a lot more interesting.
Interesting. Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
uh, a Red Bull win would make all the other teams a little bit more anxious,
More
which would
anxious.
also be
Yeah.
a little bit more
Yeah.
interesting to see. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's fascinating to see where to be in this place where we can't tell for sure that our Max is going to walk away with another win.
Absolutely. Because
Is
the
really
way the season started, I mean, Red Bull were threatening to walk away with it until slowly but surely, other teams started clawing it back and Red Bull started to have issues. But right
yeah,
now, he's become more competitive. And it's on that note that we round up our show for today. Erato, I'm really very grateful for your time. We want
for
to
sure, man.
tell another episode of Formula One Technical from Formula One Fanatics. We want to encourage our subscribers to like, share, and subscribe our content. From me, from Nigeria, and from Lerato Kuzwayo in South Africa. You have a wonderful night. Bye bye for now.